Mr. Tack, can you see the agenda?
I can see it, JJ.
Okay. Mr. Tack, are you able to see the agenda?
Yes, I can see it. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Okay, I believe everybody for the panelists are in. If you can begin, Mr. Tack.
Please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to
To the
the
flag of
United States of America,
America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, and I want to thank everyone for being in attendance for the academic affairs agenda. And the first thing I'd like to discuss is our winter credit recovery numbers at the high school. There's a handout there. You'll see that we had for the past 3 school years and then our current school year. And you can see our current school year where we had there for the 61 is very indicative of the times and situations with COVID-19 and going with virtual learning, hybrid learning in school, all different methods. And sad to say that's across the entire IU area as well as the state and the country with progress for students. So, Mrs. Holland, would you like to comment on that at all?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Yeah, so the numbers represent, I know Mr. Bradley.
You still there, Sue?
I am now. Yep. The screen switched over.
Okay.
Sure. I am here. Yeah. So I know at one of the last meetings, Mr. Bradley had asked for the winter school numbers. So we were able to go back to 2018, as you just stated, with 6 students in winter school. We also had summer school numbers as well that aren't projected up there, but have those, calculated out for 18, for 19, for 2020. And of course, as Mr. Tack just mentioned, 61 letters went out inviting students to attend our winter school as a credit recovery, meaning that they are struggling in a core area, meaning a ELA, a math, a science, or a history. So one of the required courses to graduate. At this point, I do not have how many have returned. The winter school will start next week. They're allowed to traditionally in winter school take 1 course. And then the summer school, they are allowed to take 2 courses for credit recovery. Any questions on that?
Mrs. Holland, this is Mr. Stern. I just have a question. That's across the complete demographics of all classes, the freshmen through seniors?
That is correct. Yes. Yeah, most of them end up being the upperclassmen, though, as we get closer to, calculating out graduation requirements for those in jeopardy. But letters went out to freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors this year. Yes. Mm-hmm. The underclassmen will have a little bit more opportunity, obviously, to make up courses. In the past, Near High School, as we know, had 28 credits to graduate. In the schedule that we previously had, it allotted them 32 potential credit opportunities. So there was some buffer room. With decreasing the credits last year to 26 credits, now they have 28 possible credits, based on the scheduling that we look at. So that allows for them only to have 2 failures at a given point in their 4 years. So that makes it a little tighter crunch. So definitely, the credit recovery will go up based on those issues. Anything else regarding winter school or summer school? The platform that we use for that, again, is since I've been at the high school and prior to me getting here, they previously used a virtual credit recovery. So we have used through Lava. In the past, it was Edison, but obviously this year it is Accelerate that they're using the credit recovery through.
Correct.
Students attend daily. For the winter school, they must attend, and even with summer school, they must attend. They come after school. They're be socially distanced with our whoever that person is that will be doing it, the credit recovery person, and they are, in the building for the approved time that the board approved at the last board meeting, after school for 30 hours that they achieve.
Okay, any further question
Mr.
for?
Bradley?
Yes, thank you. The report shows page 2 of 7. What are the other 5 pages? And secondly, how many of these 61 letters are going out to students that are not meeting the need because of a truancy issue, more so than just a grade issue? Thank you.
I don't know what page you're referring to, Mr. Bradley, of 2 of 7. I don't have that report in front of me. I can tell you attendance is totally.
Under academic, it says you're on page 2.
Right. The other information, Mr. Bradley, is based on the other agenda items.
No problem. Okay, thank you very much. But still, how of those 61 letters, how many are truancy related? Do we have that data?
Related to strictly, so students failing because of not being in school or truancy. I do not have that data looking in front of me. But I can tell you any student, Mr. Bradley, with a truancy issue, as in any year, we conduct the SAPE meeting, student attendance improvement plans, and they are conducted on any student after they have 3 unlawful absences in a given school year. Obviously, those SAPEs at all levels, not only in Lehighton, but like Mr. Tack said, at all levels are higher this year than normal. I can tell you at this point, Mr. Brown and the attendance committee, like in the sense we meet weekly on attendance issues with our students and track students and work with families, our school social worker, we go out, we have intervention programs for that. So currently this year, we've done about 181 SAPE plans, which are, like I said, student attendance improvement plans. On a normal year, that's between 30 to 40. So obviously the COVID-19 and virtual learning has impacted that with school attendance. As you know, and I'm sure you're gonna ask this question, in the sense of turning in assignments. So the high school, for attendance purposes, obviously they have a school day. The students are working through, if they're at home through the Canvas platform via Zoom, they have to, they are given attendance check-ins, not necessarily like projects or tests or assessments. So it could simply just be checking on a Google Doc or answer a bell ringer question that they have to submit by 2:15 of that day for all 4 of their classes. If they do not submit 50% of that too, they are marked absent for the day. All students know that. It's been reviewed over since the beginning of the year. And that's where we're at with that. If they are a LAVA now Canvas student, to give a LAVA the virtual students, they have until 11:59 to submit their attendance check-ins, and our teachers have been working very diligently with all of those students to meet their needs. For example, CCTI kids' hybrid schedule is a different rotating cycle than ours. There have been some transitions, obviously, with that. CCTI came out with their own hybrid schedule before meeting with any of the other sending school districts. So they kind of created their own, and all the other schools kind of had to respond around them. Then they changed mid-year their rotation again. So that's been a struggle for any of the kids that go halftime to CCTI, because technically they could be attending up there while classes are here. But that's kind of my update on that regarding attendance and our credit recovery.
Any further questions with the winter credit recovery?
Yeah, I think it'd be important to know and track how our virtual attendance is working. If they're only getting on half a day, it kind of begs to question whether or not we're being accurate with that metric and whether or not they can actually get on. They're obviously showing that they want to get on. We don't want to exclude participants from a free and public education for technical issues.
It's not technical issues for them not joining. I can assure you that when we do our state plans, we sit down, and generally they are done via meeting, via telephone at this point, because people are not coming into the building with parents, with students. And for the most part, it's not technical issues. Technical issues are usually waived, Mr. Bradley, regarding that. So, but we can obviously look at those numbers related to attendance. That's not an issue. We're tracking all kinds of things. For example, we had 2 students that got mixed up on the schedule today because the snow days. Parents called in and we cleared that. Like those kids were given credit. They were not marked absent. You know, those type of changes and adaptations are occurring on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think it's just an educational thing, keeping the parents attuned to what's going on, making sure that the work is
Absolutely.
being accomplished.
We meet and
I
talk
agree.
daily with parents. I can assure you that. We do multiple home visits. Myself, Mr. Brown, our school police officer, are not in the sense of just going out to educate parents on what things are going on, devices, making sure they have devices, getting kids where they need to be. We've tried to get kids through LEAF and through Penn Core, get them technology, get them Wi-Fi. I think, you know, our school social worker, Mrs. Miller, has been working on, as you know, there was some grant money to work on attendance and incentives for encouraging students to be in school, getting them in school, being on task, being on time. It's nothing that we take gravely. And as you know, with that ATSI plan that we were previously put on, attendance is part of that. So that's not something that we're looking at slightly, where we're constantly tracking it.
Okay, let's take a look at the second item, current LAVA numbers, K through 12, and then we have the out-of-school cyber numbers. So if you look at the first chart that Mr. Cleaver pulled up there, that's our high school students. You can see there, a total of 688 students. And you can see at this point, 9th grade, we have 25 that are full virtual, 9 that are LAVA Canvas, 5 that are strictly LAVA, and then 108 that are doing the hybrid. And you can see that the same way for 10th grade, 11th, and 12th. So that's their chart. And then if you would go, Mr. Cleaver, if you could just scroll up to the next one, that shows us all of our numbers for K through 12, where we started in September, where we had 502. Now, this is just LAVA. And as of February today, we have 166. So you can see that the numbers have come down drastically. A lot of students have coming back into brick and mortar. Some students have gone on to PA cyber schools, charter schools. But we are trying, like they said, to do our best. We're talking to them, seeing what's happening, what's not happening. And you can see drastically there, especially like with first grade, second grade, third grade, and fourth grade. Parents were realizing that, I mean, it was difficult in the very beginning because the amount of time to spend with those children at home. So we're fortunate that way. I mean, we feel the best way is to have the kids in the school. And that's what we're continually striving for as we look at that. So those are the LAVA numbers. And then if you would just scroll up again, Mr. Cleaver, there we have then the swivel, which was at our elementary center. And you can see there the numbers again, how they have dropped. Now, not as drastic as LAVA and so forth, but again, there we have gone from 107 down to 85. And then with the LAVA there, we have gone from 123 down to 77. Now that's the elementary center. So again, you know, we are continuing and we're thankful with the board and everybody allowing for kids to come in, especially at the younger grade levels, where we can meet their needs by being in attendance on a daily basis. That's still the best education possible. But if it's due to numbers and that we can't, then we're going to the next best thing with virtual and things of that nature for them. So again, you can see that, you know, numbers have changed. I have to be thankful for all the staff and teachers and administrators being very flexible, and especially high school, because they have multiple platforms that the teachers are dealing with on a daily basis. So that, you know, there's some very key numbers there. And then the last thing before we open it up, if you just go to the next one, Mr. Cleaver, please, there you can see our out of district cyber schools. And that number has increased drastically from last year. You can see alone just in the Commonwealth Charter, I think there's roughly about 170 some in that building, or in their school, I should say. And then you can see all the other schools. There's sporadic numbers. And then over on the very far right, the miscellaneous cyber schools, that's where there's just like one student in attendance there. So, we have been working with those students. We did have some, roughly about 50 from the beginning of the school year until December, that left us and went there. And that was part of it. But we've also tried to express to them on a daily basis, or when we do meet, about, coming back to Lava or coming back to brick and mortar, whatever's best for the child. So that's what the options that we've been working on and looking at. And I can thank Mrs. Karpowitz for getting all that, the out-of-district cyber schools together today with that breakdown. We passed that on to the business office because we never actually had a form, a spreadsheet this succinct with numbers dealing for every grade level at every different cyber school. So kudos to Mrs. Karpowitz and the business office for getting all that together. And at that point, I guess, Mr. Cleaver, if there's any questions or people have questions for us.
One thing, I'm sorry if I'm
Sure,
still
go ahead, Sue.
that I would just like to add, and I know this was the number, and again, and I think Mr. Bradley, you will like this number. 18 students were able to graduate early from the graduating class this year in January, just so you are aware of that. Which is a kudos to the students. So I would like to congratulate all those students. Most of them have come into the building, they've received their diploma. Some have not, some choose to walk at the end of the year, some do not, because they're going off to do, other things. And so I want to kudos them on that, and the work that our guidance counselors and teachers have done to prepare those kids for that should be complimented, so.
And I'd also like if Dr. McGullough or Mr. Sevlin would like to comment anything about that with their specific building and grade levels, please feel free to do so.
Mr. Bradley does have a question, Mr. Cole.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Bradley.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, congratulations on the 18. That's about, I don't know, about 8% of the seniors.
Roughly, quick math, yes.
Okay, that's great. We should be able to raise that to a high level to get these kids onto their careers as soon as possible. I think that's fantastic. Very motivated. They should be commended. It shows that we have a out-of-district cyber schools. I want to correct you a little bit, Tim, if I can. The terms that you're using and the attitudes to which you're presenting the word left us. I'd like to correct that. I think Larry and Rita will agree with the concept that the school government agency, the Lehighton Area School District, is comprised of all of these charter schools, all of the cyber and other charter schools, and the brick and mortars that we have within our district, and any homeschoolers, and everyone is a member of the Lehighton Area School District. So they didn't leave us. They made decisions based upon their best interest for their child. And I think that's very important delineation. We should not overly influence that in any way. I agree that in-school participation is valuable. I think that's wonderful. It should be commended. You guys are doing a great job. But I'd like to change the attitude in the district from the left us side to we support and promote free and public education to all the students in Lehighton, regardless of where them and their parents decide is best for them to attend. Public, parochial, home, cyber, charter, cyber charter, whatever, or our brick and mortars, whatever it may be. Definitely we want to fill our schools that we have paid for and have hundreds of millions of dollars of debt for. But what's most important is the students. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments regarding
Mr.
lava
Sevlin?
number? Go ahead.
Mr.
Yeah,
Sevlin?
can you hear me, Mr. Tack?
Yes,
sir.
sure.
Okay, yeah, and I just wanted to touch upon what Mr. Tack had mentioned about many students did feel that the LAVA program wasn't appropriate for them. So they did try the swivel program. And I think once parents, the uncertainty of how the school year was gonna unfold with safety precautions and the procedures in place, parents through word of mouth and things like that, I think felt that we were providing a safe environment for the kids. So I do feel that's a number of students also then were able to come back into the building. But we did have many conversations with parents, whether they were in LAVA, even if they decided to go to a cyber charter school, and even those students that are working on Swivel. We have conversations with them, and at the end of each marking period, we make some contacts to see if there's any possibility of coming back into the building. So I think the teachers have done a great job of promoting coming back in. The students, the staff have done a great job following the safety protocol. And I do think that, word of mouth, of course, is the best advertisement, and people talking about, the precautions that we have in place and the procedures that we have for all staff and students to remain safe while we're dealing with COVID. And I do feel that's a big part of why a lot of kids were able to come back into the building from those other programs. Not to say that they weren't struggling with, say, some, maybe a LAVA, or if they felt, they needed to be in school rather than working behind a computer, especially for our youngest kids. And I think that's a measure of why you see some of those numbers going down, especially in grade number 1.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Tack,
Yes.
on some of these notices received from the parents, so are all of our teachers able to accept, I'm going to use the word, their homework in a variety of ways, or do we lack the technology to allow our teachers to open up, say, a PDF or a JPEG or whatever they're presenting their homework in? Do we still have that
My
trouble, or has that been
understanding-
corrected?
My understanding, Mr. Bradley, and Mrs. Holland can probably back this, is that the teachers have, bent over backwards and have allowed numerous ways to present homework assignments, even if it was just taking a picture and submitting it in that fashion, if they didn't have the proper equipment at the time, or if they were having another issue. So basically, and they've gone above and like with time limits. If kids have gotten back to the teachers and said, hey, I had an issue or a problem, or like on snow days, if there was the intermittent last week where we had with power outages and the internet, they accepted that. They said that however you can get it in, if you can't, when you come back in school being present. So they have been very flexible in that way, and we have stressed that to them that, it's totally different circumstances. So, the child's making the effort. We want to be able to accept it, and, and however they can get it to us, to you, that's what we're going for.
I would just agree to that, Mr. Tack. There may have been, since the beginning of the school year, some individual issues, maybe with students and teachers regarding coursework and deadlines.
Mhm.
But my understanding is all those issues have been either dealt with the teacher, the student, and the parent, or they've been then obviously consulted with Mr. Brown or myself to mediate that and work on that, to my knowledge. I don't know of any outstanding issues related to that.
Yeah, I just want to make sure all our teachers are up to date with all their computers that they need and the tech they need. I agree we should be as liberal as possible,
Yeah.
given the current situation, to, like you said, even if the kid can give me a screenshot,
Mhm.
as a teacher, I'd take a screenshot. We can
Well,
work with that.
correct. And as we know,
solve the
technology
problem then solve the problem going forward, so that's not needed and they can actually do it in the proper format, whether it's a Word document or whatever they need to do.
Correct. I would think K to 12, this goes for everyone involved in this meeting tonight. Technology is an evolving pattern, correct? It's constantly changing, it's constantly upgrading and whatnot. So, at some point, the K to 12 district needs to look at, upgrades to technology, for teachers. And we know that we're not a one-to-one, district. So at some point there needs to be a plan for that and rolling that out.
And I'd like to confirm, is the board, I want to say uniform across this whole platform of receiving assignments and making sure that if we are weeding out students that might have missed an assignment or whatever, that someone's providing some oversight to make sure that they have a mechanism in which they can, quote, raise their hand and say, hey, I was there, I am here, I'd like to get this done, whether they need to meet these truancy requirements and participation. When I see 61, that's a lot in my opinion. And when I see, looking at this report that Tim provided, which is great, by the way, I'm looking at significant change from first grade to second. I'm just looking at the Commonwealth charters because that's the one in the upper right corner. If you look at the number in comparison to second grade versus first grade, and then you look at that 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade numbers that are in the high teens, I don't know what that is relationship to our population in those grades, but there might be a reason why that transition at those times are leaning kids towards one way or the other. And we like to try to calculate that out, or at least find out why, to shift that trend.
Yeah, so,
Yes.
back to your number, you're talking 61 out of 688 kids. Quick math is about 11%.
Yeah, and Mr. Tax also.
Yeah, but I'm looking at specifically. Look at the jump between grade 1.
Oh, yeah, I was
Grade two.
I was referring to the high school when you were talking the remediation. I wasn't talking to your, correct.
And that's some of the
Sorry.
things you're looking at. So,
Yep.
whatever they pick, it's best for them. That's the plan.
And that
However-
is being addressed. I know, Mr. Bradley, we are looking at that to see, like you said, like with bubbles and gaps, and all of a sudden the high number there. What causes the spike? Is there in a larger class, like you said, 200 and some kids versus 160? Or, for example, I know we did have some where they were saying, they were pulling the kids just because, and I don't mean to say pulling the kids, they were moving them because of the everyday, as they were coming into it, they felt that they had more of a structure, which, again, that's their opinion. We tried to present ours, we looked at theirs, and again, the bottom line is their choice. And we're just trying to find out, okay, like, how can we improve? What can we do better? So, and that's the thing, to do what's best, for the child.
Yeah, and I think busing was a part of it. I think there's a lot of variables in that soup. And by talking to the students, by talking to the parents, by talking to the community, and seeking their input, I think we can find the best way to give that free and public education to these students, so it's economical for everybody. I mean, let's face it. If there's a whole bunch of 5th graders per se that choose one way or the other, we can make the adjustments accordingly to our brick and mortar to make it worthwhile.
No problem.
Yes,
Mr. Cleaver, did you
Tax,
say?
Dr. Magala, too,
Oh, okay.
Yes.
from the middle school?
Can you hear?
Yes.
Yep.
Can you hear me,
Can hear you.
everyone? Okay. Just want to go over a couple things at the middle school. It's similar to the other grade levels. And our numbers have gone down with the Zooming and the Lava kids. And I really want to commend our teachers for being super flexible. In fact, today I had 3 parent phone calls of kids that needed to go cyber or virtual, I should say, immediately. Myself and Mrs. Goldberg got in touch with the teachers, the team leaders, and made that adjustment within 30 minutes. And I think what Mr. Bradley talked about is that public schools, we need to become, and we are becoming, much more agile with how we can provide the best public education for all of our students, whatever that might look like. And I really think that the district's really coming along, and we've been forced to, with this pandemic, to become much more agile and provide different options for the students. And I just want to say that the staff is doing a tremendous job with this. And I know Mr. Tack went out of his way, and Mr. Cleaver, and got a bunch of new computers and laptops to make sure all the kids have what they need, which is why we can do these virtual days and really make them count for a lot. So I just want to say they did an awesome job with that. And the other thing, just to kind of tack on to what Mrs. Howland spoke about, is the SAKE programs. We've also had some issues with attendance, like all districts in the state of Pennsylvania. And we've done, I think, 33 or 34 SAKE programs at the middle school. And as you said, another example, today I talked with a parent that had a problem logging on, so we went through that, and I gave them a pass. The person just simply took a picture of what they did and sent a picture with the parent's iPhone, because they said their computer was dead, so we could give them credit for attending school via albeit virtually. So I think that we're all really working well together and learning how to do things that we weren't even thinking about doing before. So that flexibility that we've learned to deal with has gone a long way. And it's been taking an effort from the community as well. The PTOs provide a lot of funds for us for additional technology and programs like Nearpod and other things. And I'll meet with them next week about that. We're going to continue to try and provide as much as we can, because as this pandemic has taught us anything is, this is the future. It's a part of the future, whether people like it or not. We have to provide a real good alternative than the traditional brick and mortar. Even if it's not best for all kids, we got to take care of every kid like it's around. Are there any questions about the middle school particularly?
Thank you, Dr. Magala.
Thank you.
And, last thing I'll say on that with this whole, I think when we look at it as a district and especially as our staff, when you compare it to March 13th, just, 11 months ago, we've come a long way. And kudos to that, to the flexibility, to the stepping up to the plate and accepting more responsibilities. And again, numerous different assignments and just, trying to be there for the kids and parents just in this trying time. So thank you again, everyone, for that. The next thing, number 3 on our item there, agenda, is possible high school curriculum scheduling changes. If we could move that up there, Mr. Cleaver. And this one, I think if we would know this, we could be millionaires with a crystal ball. That's the biggest unknown for everybody, trying to take a look at that. And I know Mrs. Holland and Mr. Brown have been working and doing different ideas. They've been talking with us. And I'll let Mrs. Holland talk on that item. The biggest thing I want to know and stress to everyone is that what we're going to be taking a look at is trying to make the safest and soundest decisions for the kids and staff, so that, it's trying already, not to mix up the pot some more, but try to keep it stable. And hopefully then with the 22-23 school year, we can look at some more things there. Because again, there's still a lot of unknowns with the COVID right now. But again, kudos to them and the guidance and the department heads for taking a look at this. So I'll let Mrs. Holland or Mr. Brown, please.
Sure. Well, as we know, it's no hidden secret that the high school last year for the 19-20 year endured a new schedule change. So previously for 20 years, they were a block schedule. Last year, we went to a 8-period rotating drop schedule. And then in March, obviously due to COVID-19, the shutdown occurred. With that being said, looking at how we were going to, roll out into the 2021 school year, we knew that it was going to be too stressful on our students due to the current times, technology, being virtual, not in school, out of school, that we went back to the block so that they would only be responsible for 4 classes and they were semester based. So there's pros and cons to all that. As you know, we've had the schedule meetings and the discussions. Semester based is cramming a lot of content into shorter periods of time versus year-long courses, those kind of things. And unfortunately, why I would agree with Mr. Bradley and the rest of you that the data is what we should be looking at. Only having that schedule change for about 6 months last year, we did not have Keystone scores to look at. The only thing we had really was our AP scores. And for the most part, our students did really well in AP, having them as a year-long course. So we went to a block for this year. As we're proceeding to next year, obviously it is time, believe it or not. It's February. Course selection needs to start occurring. There's a lot that happens in scheduling at the high school level. So obviously we feel that moving forward, COVID-19 is still going to be here. We feel that there will probably be a lot of implications with that moving into the summer and into the school year next year, that we will probably remain into a block for next year until things settle. And then we will look at creating more of that permanent schedule change for the following year, hopefully. I don't think the rotating block was the best thing for us. And that's no hidden secret. I think anyone here in the high school knows how I feel about that. I believe there's merit to having year-long courses versus the block semester. But for next year, at this point, we are going to stick with the block, because we do have concerns about still being virtual. Maybe some students not in school, not choosing to come in because of COVID, not being vaccinated, families, immunity, those kind of things. Questions related to that? that has been a struggle, as you know, because we are lacking, keystones. We are benchmarking this year with CDTs. CDTs are rolled out through the state level. They are all technology based on a computer. They've been glitchy for us. So we have a small population of CDT sampling that we're doing with that. We will have our AP scores, but again, comparing apples and oranges, last year they had some year-long courses versus this year they're semester-based. AP is only scheduled in the spring. So those are some things that need to be thought of.
I would like to hear from Lauren Courtwright in reference to, I believe she's in the emotional support side of the elementary center.
level, yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
And see what she has to say about that whole progress and how this is affecting these kids and how they're doing. I think that should be advised to this board. And same with Jan, as a first grade teacher, what she's seeing and what's available to us for, data and information. Firsthand knowledge would be helpful.
Sure, I'm just going to address that they're at the elementary, which would be very separate from the high school. Related to that's another discussion. But did you have questions related to the high school schedule though first?
No, other than that, they're the only ones here. So we don't, we have obviously Mr. McGalla for the middle school and yourself for the high school, but we didn't hear from them at all. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, sounds great.
We'll definitely be getting to them, Mr. Bradley, and anyone else at the end that has any questions or concerns. That's no problem. Okay, the summer school program, I'll just briefly touch upon that. And then I'll let either Dr. McGullough from the middle school or Mrs. Holland at the high school. Again, the summer school program is based upon the need with students that have, not successfully passed their coursework. At the middle school, we have always done a correspondence course. It's with an organization up in Bloomsburg, and it's packets that they have, and that's all graded and everything contained there. And then at the high school, again, with the summer school, we had Apex before, but we've been using now with, before it was Edison, but now with Accelerate. And again, that is based upon the need of the students, what courses, what grade level, and different items such as that nature of, what happened with the failures. So again, Dr. McGullough, of anything from middle school or Mrs. Holland with high school. And again, those programs are certain set number of days and hours that are required by the state. Does anyone have any questions out there about the potential summer school program? And again, the board has always been very supportive of that with us to help the kids and to help them try to maintain, progression as they're moving forward in their school years.
Tim, I believe Ms. Cartwright is able to speak, I believe.
Okay, and if we can go, if she wants to do it the good of the order, that's fine. Go ahead, Lauren.
Hi guys, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, sure.
Okay, sorry if there's any chaos in the background. There's a dance party happening in my basement with my toddlers and a dog in the background. But I just wanted to bring up, kind of related to everything that ends up going on with kiddos later on in the middle and high school. Yes, I am emotional support at the elementary. I have K through 5th, so I see them from potentially from the start through the end of their elementary academic career. But I just am finding, especially now with everything that's going on and just hearing everything that's been discussed about middle school and high school, just a really big need for us to possibly look into incorporating some structured social emotional learning at the elementary level. I've been doing a lot of self-study and self-research on this topic, just as a passion of mine. And also just from having a lot of people come to me at the elementary center and my behavior interventionist in regards to students that they don't know what to do with. A lot of people feel that emotional support is just the end-all be-all answer, which it's really not. One of the books that I recently just finished just discusses about how a lot of behaviors can be handled in a regular ed classroom if teachers understand how to do to teach to it. And it's a lot of those executive functioning skills like organization, time management, frustration tolerance, things like that. A lot of that can be handled through the general ed setting. So I really just wanted to propose that we take a look at, I'm not sure how, I'm not sure who. I am more than happy to do anything I can in regards to it, but I think we need to look into implementing a structured social emotional program. I don't know if that's something that we look to. I really think it has to come from the classroom teachers, and then we have intervention based behind guidance counselors, other things, but that's a conversation for another time. But just hearing how, we have the 61 students who might need credit recovery. I'd be interested to look back, and I know we wouldn't have the data and stuff on this, but what were those kids' executive functioning skills and social emotional like when they were in elementary? I feel like with the way things happen now, we don't know how long this has gone. We have a new normal of potentially doing virtual learning on snow days and for other circumstances. I think we really need to consider looking into starting these skills much younger. And like I said, having it though as a structured program. A lot of kids want to be in the elementary school. They have difficulty that's going on at home. The elementary center and school is their safe place that they come into. They trust us. They trust us as teachers. But even in the research I've done, cognitive development. I have a magazine here that I've been reading about neuroscience research, and cognitive development doesn't mature until the age of 22 and 24, whereas your social and emotional matures between the ages of 10 and 12. So that doesn't give us much time to work with these kiddos. I just think we could see, with a lot of the research I've been reading, success with kids and their academic skills when they get to the high school, if we can touch on this more when they're younger. Kudos to our district for being in person for the younger kiddos. I think that's very important. I think that we, kind of like they tell you to buy stock when it's low. I think if we take this unfortunate circumstance and a pandemic that we have and we invest in it, I really think we can see a lot of success coming out with it. So that's just kind of my pitch. I'd be happy. I don't know who, I could kind of talk to, and we could work on this, but I do think that this is really something we need to consider, and we need to look into implementing in the future as we go through this.
Lauren, it's Mr. Tack. I think it's great ideas. What I suggest is when we can get together, we'll sit down, and also with Mrs. Kistler, our special ed director.
Yes.
And we can start taking a look at that and then mapping out, because they have all the grade level leaders at the elementary there.
Yes.
We can take a look to see needs, and based upon that and what they're looking for with some professional development programs.
Right.
Start bringing that in and exposing them to that.
Right.
And again, and maybe even as well, as times permit and we start to get out of the COVID, if we could do programs in the evening for parents.
Right.
Just so they know how to deal with some certain things.
Right.
But that way we could do it as in school, parents, community, and hit it from all different facets. I think that would be great, because if we can get them at, like you said, as a much earlier age, we'll reap a heck of a lot more benefits in the end.
Right. And I think,
Great
I
ideas.
know I'm talking with Sam just from the special ed perspective. I know that we are partnering with Lehigh Valley to have a lot of, or to have some, outpatient therapies and other things going on. I don't know the specifics of it, but I do know that that would be a benefit for, the kiddos in a program like mine, like in the emotional support program. But I just think we need to look at something, like you said, to touch every kid. There are some kids who are fortunate enough to have good households, but then there are those who don't get out, and because of whatever circumstances may be, and school is their one outing. And unfortunately, yes, the times have changed. And again, the magazine that I am currently reading with the research behind it, it just says that social emotional learning is not just a fad, but unfortunately schools right now aren't moving fast enough away from the old century based, needing to work on things like the collaboration communication. So I'm going to continue my research. I'm all for it. I'm open to meet whenever. But if anybody else has any input on it or any other suggestions, I am open to it. It's just a big passion of mine, so I don't mind being part of taking the lead. But I just think it's definitely something we need to really focus on right now, not only for the students, but for our staff. I know today I felt out of whack with inconsistencies. I had a kiddo and, kind of meltdown anxiety all day because of outside home stuff. So I think it would just be beneficial for all of us. And I really do think we will see results. I mean, our staff has been working tirelessly to, at all levels, from my understanding, to make this work. But I think, like I said, if we put stock into something like this now, I think we will see great results for everything in the long term. So yeah, definitely, Tim, I'd be happy to sit down and meet at any time. We can arrange that. But if anybody else, has any interest or any input, I'd be happy to, create a team or wherever we need to do.
Yep, by all means.
Lauren, Mr. Kleber, thank you for commenting and having a little bit of an experience at the beginning of my career on the emotional support side. I know exactly what you're referring to as well. And I think when you look at social emotional learning, there's so many resources out there.
Yes.
I think as well. And many of them now, because of really COVID, they've become much more research-based, I would say.
Yes.
So I think that's definitely, will be beneficial to look at some of those resources. I know Sweet 360, there's so many different programs out there that have, research to show. And I think, we could start by looking at some of those research-based programs that are out there and see, what we can implement. And I believe the regular ed classroom, I'll speak of it, is the biggest spot for the impact, because
absolutely
in your classroom, you're working with 12 students, where, one of the other teachers could have the impact on 24, 20 to 25 students. So I think, as you said, that's an important place.
And I honestly think, just seeing, I know, Mr. Bradley, you had asked about, input from the elementary side of it. And I really think that sometimes students might be inappropriately identified. And I think it is no fault of the regular ed teacher, but I also don't think that they always 100% know how to sometimes handle students who might be a little bit, for lack of a better term, different. Challenging, I guess you could say. So I think, getting this kind of as a school-wide, starting it at the elementary level, having that research base behind it, I really do think, and I can't see who's all on here. I think I heard that Jan was on here. She could speak from a regular teacher perspective. But I think that the regular teachers would appreciate it. I just hear a lot of teachers coming to me like, oh my God, that student had a meltdown in my class, like an encore class, or even in the regular ed class. And although we had staff in there with them, they're not educated 100% on how to work with those students. And I think that they would also just appreciate it and see a difference. There's something else I wanted to say, but I totally slipped my mind. So definitely I would be all for it, would be completely happy about it. Oh, sorry, I just remembered. I really do think this is a time now too that we could look into just even our regular academic curriculum. If we look into doing an SEL curriculum at the elementary level as well, I really think we could adjust our curriculum to make it effective to combine that social emotional with the cognitive piece. And, really work on mastering those basic skills with our kiddos. I know there's been a lot of, controversy since Common Core has come out, and with even the curriculum programs we have, excuse me, I think they are, very confusing for parents and other things. And I think we could, again, I'm going to keep saying it, invest in our stock while it's low. And I think we could use a lot of the brains that we have with the resources that are out there and that we already have to really create a strong foundational curriculum when it comes to the academic and the social emotional piece. So just from things that I've been seeing, especially with all the changes happening this year, I just think, we are always in my program trying to be proactive rather than reactive. I say, let's take, a sour apple that we've been given and turn it into a delicious apple cake. I don't know what other analogy to use, but, that's just kind of my piece from the elementary side of things too.
Lauren, excuse me, can I call you Lauren?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. So in our taking stock evaluation, when we hire teachers, when we have teachers, are we looking at their skill set and then guiding them towards the idea that, and I didn't, let me back up one second. What was the book that you were reading?
So I currently just finished a book by Dr. Ross Green, who is a psychologist, called The Explosive Child, and I'm currently I am a member of the National Teachers Fraternity of Kappa Delta Pi, and I received their magazine called The Record, and this is a special issue on international practices for social emotional learning, and it's discussing neuroscience research in regards to the benefits of it.
There's a gentleman that is relatively renowned in this field.
Okay.
Morris Elias out of Rutgers. Are you familiar
Okay.
with his work at all?
I am not.
Okay. They also have SEL certificates that they can provide
Yes.
for our staff, and I think that's where we should focus our energy and attention is on our staff.
Yes.
Because if we gave them the skills and the resources and
Right.
and educate them to the emotional intelligence side of this puzzle,
Yes.
we'll get better results. And by
Absolutely.
training the trainer, that way, regardless of what their handle, it's kind of like playing chess. The pieces always move, but they always have certain rules that they have to follow anyway, right?
Right.
So I think
And,
that's part of it.
I know that there are some teachers who have taken it on themselves to receive those certifications on their own. I know I talked to one of the art teachers at the elementary center who went and received her certification in autism just because she knows that she's working with students on the spectrum. And there are certifications that you can get out there. And I agree, the teachers do need to learn and to understand it. Now, when you have newer teachers may have a little bit more experience per se, because they are required to take so many special ed credits in order to graduate with their teaching cert. A lot of the teaching certs, I don't know them 100%. I apologize. I still was under the old certification, but new teachers are required to have some sort of special ed training coming out. So that's why, one of the things that it's saying in the one article is about how, it is difficult. We are in a transition phase, not just because of the pandemic, but we're in a transition phase because of old versus new. Kind of old school, teaching, a lot of, that strict rigor, teacher directed, a lot of new modern teaching era turns into student centered and student directed. So it's hard sometimes. I know there are some teachers that, I've tried to talk to, it's very hard to change their minds. So I do agree with that. I think training is a critical component of this, that the staff does need to have some background training. And I know that my staff, and I know in discussing with the social workers, that we are, school psychologists too, we are all more than happy to kind of work together to do trainings. If we be given the time to be able to put things together, I think we, have a lot of great resources within the district that we can use. And so I think, we have a lot of opportunity if we are able to work it the right way.
And I agree. If we do this early enough, if you look at our disciplinary chart, the bell curve of which kids are violating school policies, and you look at that bell curve, you can recognize that if you catch these kids early, I think we can flatten that curve as well.
And I, not to interrupt, but I did talk to Mr. Seblin actually today, and he had made a point to me that our students in the pre-K program that are currently in the district, that he doesn't see any behavior reports being written up about them. And that kind of correlates with one of the researches that I've read about how building that empathy at the pre-K and the kindergarten level really makes a big impact and a big difference. So like you said, I agree that if we catch it early enough, I think it can make a significant difference all around.
Yeah, and that's also part of the hiring process, part of the interview process. And even if you select an individual for employment that's missing this, you could possibly add it to the requirement for application. I mean, we should be looking at those criteria to raise the bar for the people that we hire, to make sure that we're doing these things for the best interest of our students, because I think it will prevent a lot of the problems further down the stream.
Yeah, and I mean,
sorry,
that would just be something we could look into with, Mr. Cleaver, whoever, that maybe that's part of the mentorship. I don't necessarily know that part of the hiring. You don't necessarily, you want to have a high rigor, you don't want to limit people, but just I think having that training available would be a key piece to it.
Yeah, but it can be drawn in on a variety of levels. Add me to that team when you guys create it, and that'd be great. I appreciate it. Thank you. And definitely look up. You might enjoy it. Look up Maurice Elias out of Rutgers. I think we already have an alliance with Rutgers a little bit for some of these classes and some of that opportunity, and we might be able to utilize existing benefits for the students and teachers to go grab certificates from Rutgers. It might be even, I believe we'll have to check the contract, but it might even be a wash that they don't have to pay for it.
Thank you.
Spinelli?
Thank you.
I just very quickly wanted to say that if you look at what's up on our policies tonight, trauma informed is a major push on all levels by many different organizations in the state, and that also deals with the fact that the sooner you can deal with the trauma someone's feeling, and it doesn't always have to be abuse. It could be someone losing a job. It could be losing a parent or a grandparent. As soon as you can deal with that and deal with it successfully, things go better. So I just am all for it. And again, I too would be happy to do whatever I needed to do. I am in touch with other districts on that and have some names myself as to who would do some training. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if I am still heard, but I appreciate it. Thank you. We did a QPR training as a voluntary training during one of our in-service days. So I know the social workers are intending to continue more with that. I forget, and I don't know, Mrs. Hallen, if you remember the name of it. I think it was Mrs. Schiffert is trained in it. I want to say APGAR, but that's not correct. That's, I think, baby. There's a certain scale that you can, there's an acronym to it that you can kind of determine if, what the outcome will be for a student based on things that have already happened in their life by a certain age. So I think if we, can go along with some of those trainings with QPR and those scales and other things, I'm pretty excited. So just thank you for allowing me to bring this up and for, the positive input. And Tim, I guess next step is I'll be looking to meet with you and maybe Sam, and we can see where we can go from here.
Yep, we'll do that ASAP.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Lauren.
Ms. Wentz?
I just wanted to build a little bit on what Lauren's been talking about, and I wholeheartedly agree with her that the social emotional health of our students is of utmost importance. And as a regular education teacher in the younger years of first grade, I think that although we focus a lot on academics and how COVID has impacted our students academically and curriculum-wise, I think we're remiss if we forget how it's impacting them socially and emotionally, and not just for our identified students, but for all of our students. And even to take that further to our parents. I know that this year I've spent many more hours than typical working with parents and helping parents to understand and helping parents to deal with kids who don't want to come to school or who are upset about other family members being sick. So I would just encourage when we start looking at this, and I know Lauren, you'll do a great job with this, but I would encourage us to consider all of our students, not just our special education population, and to think about ways that we can teach social emotional skills in the younger grades as well as the older grades. I just think it's critical for us to address this with our students. I know it's more difficult than ever to teach social skills in a classroom where we can't be close together, where we can't be partner reading, where we can't be doing centers. And our students have missed 11 months of that type of instruction and encouragement in the classroom. And we need to keep that in mind, and we need to think about what we can do given these circumstances, and how we're going to move on when things do get back to a more normal school setting, because our students haven't had the experience in working collaboratively with other students in small groups. I think we're going to notice some gaps in that area. So I just hope that we can look at social emotional development for all of our students.
Thank you, Mrs. Wentz. And again, excuse me, definitely, as you said, and it's with all kids. So we'll definitely be taking a look at that. And, like with COVID-19, it's affected many different kids, many different ways. And the bottom line is what we can do to make them feel safe, secure, and stable. That's the most important thing, because without that security and feeling, the learning process really doesn't happen. So we want to make sure we get that, the most conducive atmosphere for them, and we'll take a look at all options possible.
And Tim, in relation to that too, I think, it's important too. I know we touched a little bit on it, but the importance of tapping into our local medical professionals at Lehigh Valley and St. Luke's, having both of them here, we're very fortunate with it. And I know they've gone above and beyond and having discussions with us and trainings and different things. So I know, both of them would definitely be all in on, on this process. I know, so if you look at some of the weekly updates that we did put out, there's a lot of good information out there with different apps and different things, not only for students, but I think parents, because I believe parents especially, are a big part of this, because let's face it, the environment at home starts with the guardians. So
Right.
I think we need to really look at tapping into those two as a major resource as we move forward with, well, I guess we could call this kind of our hidden curriculum, a little bit of an expansion, from our concentrated math, English, reading, and science and social studies. So this will kind of evolve into that.
And on that too, Mr. Cleaver, we did last week. I had a Zoom meeting with Lehigh Valley Hospital from Lehigh Valley Health Network, set up through with our social workers and principals and guidance counselors. And I know we're excited there at the at the high school. We're looking, and they can do like between 30 to 35 students. And then we also, just this week, I was on another Zoom meeting with our social workers and with the IU, and they shut their program down last year with COVID, but they're looking to bring that back. So we're looking to bring that into the district as well. So the more that we can do for the kids, and like you said, tap into all the community resources, the better off for our kids in the community.
And I think too, as we evolve, looking at this to start at the younger age, I think this evolves right into the mental health piece once they get to those teenage years as well.
Yes. Well, any other further comments or anything? I know we have the next meeting coming up, but I do want to thank all the people that participated, the people that spoke, asked questions, the panelists, board members, the teachers, and anyone else that was out there as part of this. We do thank you, and we do really appreciate the input, and we will take a look at that. And please feel free. I mean, if something comes up between now and the next meeting and you want to discuss something, feel free to give me a call, shoot me an email, or anyone, and we'll definitely take a look at it.
Well, I still want to look at this truancy issue and how we're holding the students accountable and how we hold our staff accountable for these virtual days. Is there a method or metric to which we are giving our board this oversight? I I'm hearing complaints across the board for, being able to deliver homework, getting letters in the mail for truancy when they attended the school or tried to attend the school, or they were in the school or in the virtual. We're seeing complaints about whether or not the best effort is being placed on behalf of our staff, which we'd like to review, and some of those things. What are we going to do in that regard, Mr. Tech?
Okay. With the staff, I know, like I said, the principals have been talking with them, stressing to them the flexibility. I do know, and again, I will let the principals speak to the specifics of this. I do know specifically with the high school, as Mrs. Holland alluded to earlier, like with the designated times at the end of the days for signing in, they've been in contact then with the students, with the parents, asking them, and a lot of times it's just the students not signing in or not doing that part. If there is a glitch with technology, if there's a glitch with a problem at home or something else that has come up, I know I can't say 100%, Mr. Bradley, but I'd probably say at least 95. If the students talk with the staff members and say something to them, that the accommodations are given to them. I know staff has gone like afterwards, deadlines, and said, listen, we're getting near the end. Please make sure you get this in. And I know with the meetings, as Mrs. Holland and Mr. Brown had said, and I know Dr. Magala with the SAPE meeting,
Okay, I'm not actually on this call. I had to give my, and now they cut her off. They actually allowed a citizen to have access, and they're having issues. See, nothing like silence in the community.